live. Hey guys, happy New Year. It's been a minute, I think a couple months, and I've actually been trying to get this with the infamous JD Glasscock
Yeah,
from
Shammy was the last one you had, didn't it?
Sham. Yes, Shammy was. Yeah, it's been a couple months, and me and JD been working trying to get it
Yeah, I
on
love
last week.
Shammy. Crouton of the pink dress.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
If you've
Yeah,
read that book of hers, it's really good.
not yet. I'm actually trying to. I'm working
It's
on
not lit
the.
RPG though. It's just straight post-apocalyptic fantasy.
I have to get into that one. I remember you actually. Yeah, you were commenting on it. Yeah. Remember that. But
Yeah, there's just an amazing little girl character in it that's kind of the linchpin. She's not the MC, but it's kind of like the linchpin of the series that kind of everyone floats off of. And it's a little mute girl.
Yeah,
They
yeah, I
can't
remember
even
that.
talk. And but is so cute and adorable. You know, has like a little teddy bear in post-apocalyptic, has a little teddy bear. They go into a shop and she has a pink dress that she wants to wear, but they say, well, we're trying to like be stealthy. You can't wear a bright pink dress. So she comes back out with a giant like war trench coat, like army trench coat over it. It's funny.
Definitely. I'll have to. I haven't read that one from Shanny, but I'll. Is that part of which series is that one on?
It came out in the last year. I forget the name of it again. It's the first book of that series.
Okay.
I don't know. You have to look, but if you just go on Amazon under her name, Shemi, I don't know how they say their last name. Turner, Abby, just Stovall. So.
Yeah, but guys, yeah, we've been working on here. I mean, JD's always one of the people that comments on my things. I've been trying to get him on, one because he's a big fan of Grimdark, and I'm a very big fan of Grimdark. So
well, I write Grimdark, yeah.
That even better. So just
and
but
Warhammer.
Warhammer. So that's something that we've both fallen.
Yeah, I've read more Warhammer books than I could imagine, man. I tend to. I mean, I've read quite a few of the fantasy ones, but I've read way more of 40K.
Have you read any of the new ones that just came out? The most recent one that's talking about, well, they're going.
No, I did the last 2 years. I pretty much, and some of my author friends, Mark Lawrence and Faith Hunter, and a few of those people are probably irritated with me because I haven't read any of their new books, and they're like mainstream, and I'm like, I've been stuck in lit RPG for the last 2 years of like, that's pretty much been my reading.
Yeah, well, I'd highly recommend it. They're going more in depth into the Horus Heresy now. It's
I've read all the Horus Heresy except for the last like few books of when they're finally on Earth, Terra.
Yeah.
So like I even read the beginnings of that part of the series, which is not, I don't think, called Horus Heresy. The last, like when they finally arrive on Terra, it's kind of its own series.
No, I'm blanking on it.
And I read like the first 2 or 3 of those books where the Phoenician and like all of them are on like attacking Terra.
Right now, it's like essentially they're talking about. I don't know if I don't want to spoil it for you, but they're kind of Horus is fighting the Emperor, and he's
yeah, I haven't gotten. Yeah, I know enough, man. I haven't gotten that. I'll read it at some point. I haven't gotten to the part where Horus finally like shows up.
Gotcha.
I think the last one I read was the poison guy. The poison dude was attacking.
Gotcha.
The Mortorian or whatever his name is, man.
Okay. Yeah. The Primarch. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy with the giant gas mask and the ski.
Yeah, Mortarion. He's the Death Guard.
He was attacking, and the Phoenix was defending along with Dorn and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, guys, this is what I like talking about. I mean, Warhammer.
And then I've read a ton of the current day. Warhammer 40K. You know what I mean? So, and in fact, my book, my series, The Dream, was somewhat inspired by the Inquisitor game.
Okay.
And Rift MMO.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'll definitely. I'm gonna start reading into that one because I love Grimdark, and I need also to read TJ's because he also is putting his toes into Grimdark now. But yeah, I mean, Tell the chat here what who you are, JD. I mean, I know who you are, but that way everyone can.
Well, my name is JD Glasscock, and yes, that's my real name. It's not a pen name. I don't write harem. I do write grimdark though, which in my opinion is basically like a rated R film in a novel. So whatever you would see in a rated R film, that's the kind of like lack of filter you would see in a grimdark thing. So I always call it just realism. Like there's no filter in life, so there's no filter in grimdark, whether it be violence or the sexuality or heavy emotions or trauma or whatever it is. It's laid out with little filter. Now, I don't think gratuitousness is necessary. I think as long as there's always poignancy to it, of whether it's story development or character development, then it's there should be no restraints on what you're depicting. But so I started off 30 years ago as a slam poet, made a couple national teams as a slam poet. Then I did singer-songwriter for a decade up in Seattle. Then I flipped to film, and I've written and shot about 16 short films, and been blessed enough to win a bunch of, hey, everyone, you guys, and then been blessed enough to win a bunch of awards in the film industry. But then I got to a point a couple years ago where I'd written 5 different feature films, and I spent like 4 or 5 years trying to find funding for feature films. And the problem with feature films is it requires so much money, it becomes less about your skill as a writer and script. And I found that all the awards I won as a short film writer director didn't mean shit when it came to feature films. Feature films, they want to know, it's about your branding. It's about like how many people know who you are before they're willing to give you money. All the things I hadn't really focused on. You know what I mean? So I was in the middle of, like 2 years ago, I was in the middle of writing my 6th feature film script. And I'm like, why the fuck am I writing another feature film script when I haven't even funded the other 5 or shot them? I'm like, and I've been reading voraciously my entire life, like a couple books a week at least since I was like 5. And so I'm like, why the fuck don't I write novels? And I'd already, and right a few months before that, I had literally just started getting into lit RPG. And so that was what I decided to write. So my first book came out a year ago in August. That was book 1 of the Blood Brothers. It was called The Bones of Our Fathers. And in that time, I've written 7 books, 5 in that series, 2 in my other series called The Dream, which is more post-apocalyptic lit RPG. And then I'm almost done with book 1 of my superhero lit RPG. And then I'll kind of juggle the 3 series until I start knocking some out. I won't start another series after that until I at least finish one. But there you go.
No, that's good. That's good. That way people know, and just for to kind of also dumb it down for people who just aren't into the whole reading RPG. Think of grimdark as almost like Quentin Tarantino for people who just like films. Like
yeah,
that type
except
of
he
style.
doesn't really usually show titties, but yeah.
True. But other than that, just that type.
It's so funny for the amount of violence he shows. He, for some reason, doesn't really like show much sexuality.
That's true. Can't think of. Yeah.
But he's a literal bloodbath when it comes to gore.
True. That's also true. I mean, Django. I mean, Django. What else is?
Hey, do you know when I read when they first in the original script of the Django big fight scene in that mansion? Django was only supposed to kill like 4 or 5 people, and Tarantino was having so much fun shooting it that he kept saying, add more people, and he ends up like killing like fucking 30 something people or something.
Yeah.
But originally the script originally had that much smaller scene where he only killed like 4 or 5. And I have a friend of mine from my days of when for 8 years when I was in LA. I'm in Texas the last 6 years, but in 8 years before that, I was in LA, and I made a living being a stand-in and union background extra on TV and film. And there's a friend of mine who was a stand-in for Christoph Waltz
Oh,
on
okay.
Django, and he said that literally Tarantino had a mini bar that, like, if they hit certain milestones, he would break out and let everyone start drinking, because most of it was on location, and so they were all bussed in. You know, the whole crew was like bussed in, so no one was really driving. So
Gotcha.
he would literally like bust out the bar and let everyone start getting fucked up.
Gotcha. Wow. No, I didn't. And I love Quentin Tarantino is one of my the better directors that I'll follow. I also noticed that while I was looking at some of your stuff on your profile, Josh Martin. How do you know Josh Martin?
I know a lot of people, bro. So that name in
Okay.
itself is not like.
He's the voice of Majin Buu for Dragon Ball Z. He's
Oh, I
also
think I told you I had that blog show for 5 years, bro.
gotcha.
Stormcrow, Dreamers Talking to Dreamers, and we had him as a guest.
Gotcha. So Small World. I used to live in Bossier City, Louisiana. He's from Houghton, which is like 20 minutes away, and I met him through one going to all the cons that he would do locally. But I got the chance and opportunity to just hang out and talk to him for a little bit, and really really down to earth guy. So it's Small World.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we had 2 guests per show, and we did like 65 shows. So,
Gotcha. And he also does he has a what do you call it, Beastie Boys. He does a Beastie Boys tribute. So
yeah, and you never know. I might do that show again at some point. But when my co-host couldn't do it, Mark Potter, and Mark is funny. He's actually trying to write a lit RPG now, finally. But he just got overwhelmed with having to work a full-time job, and he started back to school. So it was like once he did it, I just decided to put it down for now, the talk show.
yeah.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, Emerson Ash is almost done. I'm at 85K into it. So in the next week and a half, I'll finish it. Then I'll have to go back and do all the editing.
So what's kind of your process? I mean, I kind of talked this with all my authors that I interviewed. Like,
from
what's
the
your
hip,
process?
is that what you're asking? The whole, I don't like the terms they use, the pantser or whatever.
Well, no, just whatever you identify as. That doesn't really matter to me.
I call it from the hip, but yeah. So like many of those people that identify that way, I have like an end goal. I know the general gist of the story, the world I created, all that stuff. But then I just kind of write and let the story get me. I know places I need to get, but otherwise I just come from the hip and let it roll me there. And so I don't pre-outline chapters or
Gotcha.
any of that
Okay.
kind of stuff. I just kind of let myself stroll through it. But I mean, this is where all the way over a decade of me writing film helps out. Okay, so film, you're trying to keep everything very, very tight and very concise. To me, when I write film, it needs to be kinetic from one step to the next. Like, there's no fat, no superfluous crap. You want to keep people on the edge of your seats, edge of their seats, till from the beginning to when you finish. And so that helped me a lot as I started writing novels. My biggest challenge with novels is, yeah, I've been writing for 30 years, but I was writing poetry, lyrics, and film, none of which is grammar is important.
Yeah.
And so when the biggest hindrance, I just don't have the money to go pay an editor. You got a lot of readers out there that aren't writers. Dude, to have just a line editor, just a person that fixes grammar and shit, that's over $1,000 per book. So
yeah,
not
people don't
many
notice.
indie authors. I mean, there are a few that had really good jobs before they started writing, so they had that kind of money. But not many indie authors have, especially when they're writing 3 or 4 books a year, have $1,400 to $1,500 per book to hire a line editor to edit their book, especially because a lot of those authors are not going to come out of nowhere, a nobody author, and all of a sudden making $100,000 on their book. That's not realistic. You know what I mean? Most indie authors usually, there are a lot of them they don't start seeing a true profit until their like 12th book, their 15th book. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. These are
now there's
some
a few
realities.
exceptions, but most of those exceptions, besides a couple I can think of, most of those exceptions were people that had really good jobs before they became a writer. So they had like 10 grand, 20 grand to hire all the editors, to put a bunch of money into marketing, you know what I mean? Like before they even came out. Or they did Royal Road, where they had a good enough job where they sat on Royal Road for 2 years building up an audience before they ever came out with their first book.
And this is something I kind of want to show people with at least when it comes to writing books, and make sure people know, because this could be a big something that you have to save for. Like you said, line editors. And then you got your
yeah, but there's a lot of authors that are living paycheck to paycheck. They can't save that kind of money. You know what I mean? Like they don't. They would be sitting on their book for a year or two trying to save $1,500 to pay a line editor. Where to me, it's everyone has their own road, do their own thing. But to me, it was more important just to get the fucking books out. You know what I mean? Like, because now I'm 7 books in. If I was trying to wait to have 4 to that, I would probably just be getting book 1 out now.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, instead of the 7 books. Now I've gotten a lot better. I rarely now on my books do I hear grief on a lot of grammar shit. But my first 2 books, I still hear it because people don't understand. Okay, so like, say if I want to go re-edit that book 1 and fix all the editing shit, I would need to take the time to do that. Then I would need to pay my formatter again to format it into a new ebook, pay him again to format it into a new print format. Then if the page count's now different, then I need to go pay my artist to make a new print cover. And you're talking hundreds of dollars to go fix one book. So, I mean, people just don't get the cost. Unless they're a writer themselves and have walked through it, they don't get the cost of what it takes to put out a book. Like Ryan just said, they don't quite fathom. They just go, well, why didn't this guy hire an editor? Why didn't they go fix it? Or what? Everything costs money when you're putting a book out, man. Every single thing you do. And it's kind of the same way with film. When I was doing film and I was talking to young filmmakers, and they're like, even writing short films, they got $1,000 to shoot this short film, yet they have like car explosions in their script. I'm like, dude, every single thing, it's the same concept, even more so in film. Every single thing you write in that film costs money. There's a monetary value to every single thing you write in that film. And instead of reworking it, this is why a lot of shitty small films, like short films and shit, come out. Because instead of changing it to fit the budget, they try to shoot it anyway, and it ends up coming out like shit.
So what made you decide, at least throughout your books, versus like using like Royal Road that some people use?
I just didn't have to. I mean, all my books have been on Royal Road. I wrote the first book on Royal Road. Gotcha. I just didn't have time to sit there with it.
Okay.
I needed it to start bringing in money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So as soon as I finished my books, I have to pull everything except 3 chapters off and publish.
Gotcha. I don't know if you hear that. So right now in Italy, it's Carnevale, which is similar to their version of Mardi Gras. So if you hear the bumping music in the background, that's what's going on right now.
Oh, are you telling the audience? Because I'm good.
Yeah, I'm telling. Well, everyone, both, everybody. So if you guys can hear that, that's what that is.
I can't hear shit except you talking. So
perfect. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, if people had a good enough job to sit on Royal Road, it's a smart move. You know what I mean? Like Brian did that. He literally has been on. He was on Royal Road for like 2.5 years before that recent first book just came out of his, and now he has book 2 out of it, Silver Academy or whatever. But he had a really good job working for Baldur's Gate 3. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, I didn't know he was working.
He was the guy that went and found the writers for them. Okay. So he had a good job, and he could just sit on Royal Road with his Wildcard series. His Wildcard series was out there for like 2.5 years. So he brought a bunch of fan base with him. And then Primal Hunter and all those guys, dude, they came when there was like 1/15 of the amount of lit RPG authors there is now. So, and they all started on Royal Road, Defiance of the Fall, He Who Fights the Monsters, Primal Hunter. All those guys were on Royal Road when lit RPG author, the authorship population of authors in lit RPG was like 1/15 what it is now. So their competition was way, way, way smaller. And then they were good enough and solid enough writers and original enough in their stories that they, right out of the bat on Royal Road, blew up on Royal Road.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So, but they still sat on Royal Road because they were making like 10 grand a month on Patreon. Because like I said, back then there was like literally a smidgen of how many authors there are now. So if you were really good back then on Royal Road and lit RPG, you got followers like fucking candy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so those guys were making shit tons. So they just sat on Royal Road until they had millions of followers before they put their first book out.
Okay. Damn, like the glasses in my house are shaking.
Yeah, people just don't understand that. Like, they look at the He Who Fights and all those guys and say, "Oh, I want to be that person." I'm like, that was a different time period, man. That was like when those guys came out. That was like maybe 2-3 years into lit RPG existing.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So literally, it was like a very, very small group, and in that very, very, very small group, if you were talented and had an original idea and were sitting on Royal Road, literally people were eating it up like fucking candy. You know what I mean?
So what would you say to someone who's starting off right now into the lit RPG series as an author? What would you tips or tricks for them?
It all depends on their circumstances, man. I mean, like I said, if they have a good job and they can afford to sit on Royal Road, it's a good idea because you're building an entire fan base before you ever publish. Okay. But there's very few people that can actually are in a position to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
A lot of authors are like struggling artists.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so it's just, I feel like sometimes a lot of the bigger authors who did have good jobs because they kind of correlate a little bit, don't quite understand that struggling artist concept. You know what I mean? So they don't understand why you don't just have an. And I noticed that when I first started lit RPG, is all the advice was coming in. I would say 3/4 of it was based on that I had a big pile of secure money to play with.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I was like, wow, you guys are kind of out of touch that you're the exception, not the rule. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know.
Okay.
And I'm like, so when I give advice, I try to give advice more from to me a realistic point of view of that a majority of these people trying to write books are not uber money vested. You know what I mean?
Okay. No, and it makes sense. I mean, some people, have that opportunity and that chance, and other people, regular Joe Schmoes that, they're doing it because they want to, and then they hit it.
Yeah, and I'm all about advocating dreams, man. Like, I hate when I see people try to put boundaries or stop other people from their dreams, man, or put unrealistic things in front of them that create those boundaries. I'm all about seeing people succeed, man. And so when I give advice, I try to do it from a realistic standpoint of where that person's at. And then understanding, even if you don't have a lot of money, it's more important to me to get your book out there and get you in the gist of I completed a book and that feeling of I completed a book, because it's too easy for them to get dejected and quit.
Okay.
If they're barely surviving money wise, and they're literally like have all these people telling them, wait till you have $1,500 to hire an editor, wait until you have this much money to do marketing, wait until you have that dejects a lot of people. A lot of people, those kind of boundaries put in front of them as facts will keep them from fulfilling that dream. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Okay.
Now, it's great if you can do all those things. If you have a good job and you can sit on Royal Road, all the power to you. It's a good way to go. But I always just say be realistic with where you are and what's going to work for you as opposed to what worked for everyone, for other people. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. So, I mean, you kind of mentioned earlier, at least with that you were writing or trying to finish the book. So how do you work your time management and get
I don't know, dude. I work a normal job, bro, and so it's draining sometimes. I'm about to turn 53 Monday.
Oh, and happy early birthday.
Thanks. And I work a job that's very hard to do at my age, and I do it 4 days a week, and it's very physically taxing, mentally taxing. And so it's hard to do that and try to get all my writing done. You know what I mean? But writing is a commitment, man. You have to look at it as a job. You have to look at it as no matter how I feel, I got to get writing in today.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, some days that'll be you're so exhausted. Some days I'll only put 300 words in. Other days I'll put. That's another thing, man. Is be realistic. Quit looking at these people that write like 5,000 words a day and act like that's what you got to do. You know what I mean? All I say is every day, whatever book you're working on, open it up and at least put one sentence on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because as long as you have the mentality that every day I'm going to open this up and put something there, you'll get it done. Sooner or later, you will look up and that book will be done.
Yeah, I mean I said that once, and I think I put TJ's comment like. It's whether you put 2 words or 300 words, like eventually you will finish. Now it might take longer, but like you'll get to that end eventually.
Yeah, but people screw themselves sometimes like a lot, man, in life, and not just writing and a bunch of other things. They want to go from A to Z. They want to skip B, C, D, E, F. They want to go from A to Z, and then they get dejected and don't want to do it because they're like, how the hell am I supposed to do that? Instead of just looking at going from A to B, let's just focus on A to B. Because if you do that, then from B to C, then from C to D, if you do that, eventually you'll get at Z. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But a lot of people try to encompass it all at once. It's kind of the same thing with like working out. Like, so for a long time, I worked out a lot of my life, played sports, but then I stopped for a long time. And then I realized most people quit working out because they give themselves unrealistic goals. They're like, I'm going to start going to the gym in 5 days a week, blah, blah, blah. And then they can't keep that up, and then they get dejected and they quit. So like 4 years ago, I decided, hey, I'm going to get back in at least decent shape. And but I said, what's realistic? I said, you know what? I'm going to work out 3 days a week for 25, 30 minutes each time. Because I think I can commit to that, and realistically, I think I can hold to it. You know what I mean? And I did. That's what I did. And I've kept it up for like almost, 4 years or something like that. And then same thing with writing or anything else in life, man. Give yourself realistic goals and commit and do it. So when I'm talking to a writer and I tell them I need them to write every day, I tell them, hey, I don't care if it's one sentence. I don't put a marker on it. I just say, write every day. You want to be a writer? Write every day. When I was like young in like my early 20s and I was a slam poet and all that kind of shit, this old guy said to me, you want to be a writer? Write a lot, read a lot. That was still probably one of the most brilliant, wise things I've ever heard in my life, man. And he was a grumpy old man. But I thank him every day for saying that, because break it down. That's what it is. You want to be a writer? Write a lot, read a lot.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I have 2 books that I need to read. One being Chamois, and the other one I need to start reading TJ's stories.
How the hell have you not read TJ, dude? You're like literally part of his group.
I know, and I feel, but
Oh man, get off
I
your
just,
nutsack and fucking get to it, bro.
I know, but yeah, this job. I mean, like this. It's,
Again, though, dude, you're doing what we just talked about, and you're going. I have all of this to do, and that's overwhelming me. Instead of just grabbing the book, opening it, and hey, I'm going to read one page today.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's not that's.
You're doing the exact thing I'm talking about, bro. You're overwhelming your brain by saying, because in your brain you're like, I already need to have these books done. And that's too much. You're like, oh my God, that book's like 500 pages. Oh, that book's like 600 pages. That sounds like so much, man. It's too much. Instead of just like going, hey, I'm going to read a page today.
True. I mean, I used to read, the 500 books in a couple days with no problem. But
I don't know. I'm telling you this, man. You are never going to be, in my opinion, a successful writer if you don't like to read.
Oh, I love to read. So
it doesn't matter what you read. Don't feel pressure to read Friends or any of that. Read what the fuck you want to read. As long as you're reading, you're good.
There you walked into. Yeah, I mean, hey, but this is good advice.
Well, bro, I'm 53 years old, and you should know that, TJ. If it is the job of the veteran artist, one of their main jobs is to reach back and help in whatever way artists on the beginning of their journey. That is literally, at my job that I was telling about earlier. There's two different, and I don't even have a lot of money, but there was one young girl, 21, said she'd been wanting to sing all her life, but she didn't think it would ever happen. So I took my old band mic that still had a lot of sentimental value to me, but that's not my deal anymore. I took my old mic stand. I took my old little tiny cool little portable amp, and I gave it all to her. Now it's on her after that, but I said, here. And I told her, life is going to give you enough obstacles without you having any choice in the matter. Don't create your own. You know what I mean? And I said, there, you now have all the tools with which to sing. Another girl said, same work, same job, different girl. She said she's been painting all her life, drawing all her life, but she felt like she hasn't been doing anything. And I said, okay, well, let's stop there. Let's stop worrying about you painting. Have you taken your paintings and put them up on social media to get some support, mental support, spiritual support, all those kind of things? She goes, no, because I'm a good photographer, but I'm not a painter, but when you shoot paintings and turn it into digital, you need to have a little bit of a frame for it beyond the painting to shoot against. And she does big canvas stuff, and her walls in her apartment are all like cream white, so it clashes with all of her art. So I went and bought, and she didn't have a lot of money because the actual art canvas shit you can use for that is like $100, bro. So I went and bought pure white bed sheet set at Walmart for $100 and T-Tacks. And then I gave them to her and said, there you go. You have one of your friends hold it taut, T-tack it up. There you go. Now you can do the, social media. Again, now it's in her lap. But her boundaries that she was giving are now gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and this is why I bring different authors in, because advice is always good. I always, try to do my best and take that advice in to what people provide. Now it's always up to me to kind of figure out what best fits for me.
Hey, you still got to do the work, man. Like I said, I think it's the job, one of the most important jobs of veteran artists that have done it in a long time, to reach back and help. But in the end, the only one that can create and do art is the artist. So the only one that can really truly put the work in. I mean, us older guys can give you some tools, some support, but in the end, you're the one that's got to do the work or not. Either way, like those two girls, I'm not going to ever mention again doing it. I gave them tool sets. Now it's up to them and their choices in life and their ability to put it together and do shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, very true, very true. I think I thought I heard my name, but so when lost my train of thought. But what else?
Yeah,
What
let's
else?
talk about Embers and Ash that's coming out that
Oh,
Ryan was talking about earlier, man.
yeah,
Embers
yeah,
and
yeah.
Ash is my superhero lit RPG. I'm trying really not hard not to put the grim dark moniker on it because it turns off some people, even though it is grim dark because that's what I write. I kept it off the cover, but that is what it is. It's kind of like my Watchmen superhero, along the lines of the Watchmen, except way more action because that movie literally had like almost no action. But anyway, um, but it's basically this little orphan girl. She's a telekinetic, um, one of the metas, and basically her entire life, her and her bestie Lacey wanted to be the Vigilant, be a part of the Vigilant, which is like the giant superhero group that keeps the Citadel, which are the villains, in check or whatever. But everyone said she would never do it because she's just an orphan. You know what I mean? Like most of the people that make the Vigilant are people that were brought up and trained from the very beginning by like affluential family, like politics, like almost anything else, affluential families, connected people, all that stuff. But every year, once a year, they have a tournament locally. And then if you win the locals, you go to regionals. And if you win the regionals, you become a finalist to get 5 spots as new trainees for Vigilant. So against all odds, this girl wins every single thing, goes into there and actually wins one of the 5 spots. She spends the next 2 years training to be the Vigilant. On the day that she finally finishes her training, all the Vigilant are slaughtered, and she's the only one remaining, and she spends the next decade. This is all the first 5 chapters. After that, it picks up a decade later, where she spent a decade being chased by the kill squads of the Citadel trying to kill the last Vigilant.
Okay. So are you using a system in this one? Because
yeah,
typically,
it's lit RPG.
okay.
It's
Yeah.
probably
So
my most crunchy system I've used.
so how would you describe this system that you're using?
It's a mix of things. So you have like power sets that are rated, common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, and then there's a few that aren't talked about that no one knows about that are above that. And then I use evolutions, and then I use ranking. So like levels 1 through 10 is copper, levels 11 through 25 is bronze, levels 26 through I think, I don't know, 50 or 60 something is silver. So when they hit bronze, they get their first evolution where they go into one of those dimensional areas, and based on their actions and choices, they have to choose an evolution.
Okay.
And then they get one more at gold. The final evolution. And then, like I said, then they have skills and they have abilities. The abilities are that go under their power sets. So like her power set is telekinetic manipulation. But even in this world, you could go 100 different ways on that based on abilities. Her first ability was actual geometric object creation using her mind, telekinetic energy. So she could create weapons out of the telekinetic energy. So she was very melee oriented. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So close
now
combat.
Someone else with that same power set, maybe their first ability was to just lift shit with their mind. So they would probably end up being more ranged. You know what I mean? Whereas hers was she could create geometric objects out of telekinetic energy.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, it's not, I'm going to put this on the list as one of the things, because I love superheroes. We can talk superheroes all day, just like as we can talk Warhammer all day.
She's fun to write because she's like a black girl raised in an orphanage, raised on rap and all that such. She's got that kind of lingo that's fun to write. Like her and her bestie, Lace, who both from the orphanage, grew up reading every book they could, reading every vid they could, and then their game between each other was to like out lingo each other. with like cool little linguistics.
Okay. So would you say story-wise? I mean, I'm just because I'm getting bits and pieces. Would you say like it's dark, like almost like have you? I don't know if you've ever read the Boys, the actual comic book, not
I
the.
didn't read it, but I watched all the series.
Okay. So is it dark
But
like
yes,
that?
it's along those lines, except not so much the corpos, even though
Okay.
there's a little bit of that in there. Because you got you got to remember. So I go back in the history. I talk the system has been in this world for already since the mid 1700s.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So I start the story in like a little ahead of our current time. So maybe I don't know, late 20, like close to 2100. You know what I mean? So that's been going on for that long. But in the beginning, there was the purge when the metas first started appearing. There was like this witch purge where they thought it was of the devil, and people all around these witch hunters going all around the world slaughtering all these kids.
Gotcha.
After 20 years, the world leaders finally stepped in and said and put a stop to the purge. Then metas started flourishing everywhere, and then there was what's called the Long War, where all of a sudden villains, like people that were like pissed that they basically were slaughtered for fucking 20 years, became villains, and then people that wanted to like forgive humanity and still save them became heroes. And then you also have mercs. So there's 3 different types, and they actually have to choose this system-wise when they hit bronze and they have their first evolution. They have to choose to be either a super, a merc, or a villain.
So I would assume the merc is between the lines, and then
they're exactly what it sounds like. So there's 3 organizations. There's the Vigilant, which are the superheroes. Then there's people that don't join the Vigilant that are still supers, and they're called vigilantes. Then you have the mercs who join the House of the Wolf. That's the merc group. And if they don't join the House of the Wolf, they're called rogues. And then you have the villains, which join the Citadel.
Citadel, okay.
And if they're not part of the Citadel, they're blackguards. And because not everyone joins those groups. So if they're not joining those groups, then they're still metas that they still had to make a choice between villain, super, and merc. You know what I mean? Gotcha. And they get different quest systems.
Okay.
So like a merc is going to have quests that like they got hired to protect some rich dude, or you know what I mean? Or they got them and their squad got hired to take out some war chief. You know what I mean? They're about being hired and making money and and then you have villains who are obviously going to just do villainous shit because they're assholes. And then you have supers who get quests more like trying to stop, whether it be rogues or blackguards or Citadel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely got my attention, and I am going to look forward to it when it comes out. And yeah, I will.
But remember, the book starts in the first 5 chapters. All the vigilant, they're still vigilantes, but all the vigilant have been slaughtered by betrayal by the Citadel. And then the Citadel, by the time the main story takes place 10 years later, which he's running, the Citadel has completely taken over England and created that and made that their place.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have, their plan is to take over the whole world. So they have kill squads all over the world, kidnapping young metas to put them in this torturous training center that mind wipes them.
Gotcha. Oh.
So the main character, even though she spends a decade running from these kill squads, she also spends that decade trying to save kids from being kidnapped.
Okay. I would assume with these locations that you're choosing, are you basing that off experience or just general pop culture?
Yeah, I mean the Vigilant, their home base that was destroyed was the east coast of the U.S. So she's in the U.S. The House of the Wolf is taken over and based in Sicily.
Oh, okay, not too far from me.
And all those people come into it. You know what I mean? So I don't want to spoil her, but basically she's almost killed by a kill squad. and she's saved by this albino man that appeared about a year before that, called the Ghost. And then the story is about whether her meeting the Ghost, whether he can inspire her to finally do what she should have done already, which is try to reform the Vigilant and actually fight back instead of just surviving and saving some kids. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Okay. Well, just so people, I don't want to get you, talking too much and spoil. But yeah, hey guys, if you interested, definitely start looking out for that one.
I mean, and it's all on Royal Road. It's going to be there until I finish it, and then I'll knock off everything except the first 3 chapters. But there's like 29 chapters up there right now, about 85K.
Okay, well there you go.
And now it's mostly unedited shit. I try to just get the book written, besides a few little edits that I catch as I'm writing it. Gotcha. I just try to get the book out, and then I go back and do a full edit. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
So people, if you're going to Royal Road, understand that I'm not worried about little fucking typos and shit like that. I'm trying to get the book written.
Okay. So how do you find your voice when you're writing the book then?
Huh?
When you're writing a book, how do you find your voice, or how do you find that the topic that you want to write about?
Oh, dude, I've never had writer's block in my life, man. I've had writer's laziness. I have to come stop coming up with ideas. You know what I mean? Because I have too many. Like when I was writing film, dude, I had like this book of like 50 different script ideas. And I was like, dude, I got to quit doing that shit and actually get these things written, dude, because but you got to understand, man, I was a loner all my life. So when I was a kid, there was a lot of unfortunately, it made me who I am, but there was always fighting and yelling and screaming, and like I grew up in like a war zone. You know what I mean? So the way I dealt with that is I was always in my room with the doors shut, creating worlds in my head. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it allowed me to tune out all the yelling and screaming and
stuff going around. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So all it's done is change mediums. Same shit. You know what I mean? Like I remember with my Star Wars figures, I had like 4 different worlds for them. I had like 30 figures. Each one of them had a different personality based on which world I was using. I would have overplots and subplots and all this stuff. And then I went from that to D&D, and then I would buy every role-playing system you could think of and just read all the world creating and mythos and all that stuff and create like 30 characters and run all these stories in my head based on the characters. And I would go buy the next role-playing system. Then video games. And then when I was 18 is when I decided I wanted to be a writer. Okay. And it was so funny because at 18, I wanted to be a writer and write novels. And then I immediately started keeping a journal, and immediately poetry and shit started coming out. And then I was young, and then I found out about open mics. So the whole novel idea went out the door because I found I could go to open mics and perform, and a bunch of chicks liked it, and I could flirt with them. So, and at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, that's like high priority.
Right.
So I got caught up in doing all of that. And then that led to music, and then eventually like film, where it became more back to writing stories instead of flipping out poetry or lyrics. And then that led me, we already went over that, what led me to finally, what I began to wanted to, I finally did, which is like a year ago in August, wrote my book 1.
Well, I mean, hey, like we just talked about earlier, you got to that road. It might have been, from hitting certain goals, but you eventually got to that goal that you wanted of writing the book. So that's always
I still have. It's so funny because when I first started like 30 years ago, I still have the red book where I literally like hand wrote this whole world I wanted to write a novel in. So I still have that. And it's so funny. I haven't looked at it in probably 20 years, dude. I would probably be funny to see what I actually wrote and all that about the world. But
just dust it off. And see
to be honest, I really don't even remember what the fuck I wrote or what it was about, dude. Like I said, I've always kept it, regardless of all the fucking states I've lived in. It was like my little holy Bible. I made sure I never lost.
Right.
But, like I literally haven't looked at inside it in probably 25, 30 years.
Crack it open, see what you get eventually.
Yeah, I know, it's right there on my shelf, dude. I just still haven't even. I just know I needed to keep it. That was the beginning. You know what I mean? It was the first thing.
You just told me, I'm hearing a bunch of it, and you haven't gotten to it, and you left it alone for 26 years.
Well, because it's not important. I've got a bunch of shit I'm writing, bro. Like I'm producing. You know what I mean? Like that's not something I'm producing. That's more of nostalgia.
Interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, when I get where I'm going as an artist, bro, and I'm actually making a living, my whole goal is I don't care about being a millionaire. I don't care about being some rich dude or whatever. I care about if I could just make enough money on just creating shit to pay my bills and stuff, I would be content. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We do have I do have a video game coming out on Steam, adult visual novel coming out on Steam in March, I think, or April. That the coder guys that we hired, my partner hired, like I wrote it and designed it and all that stuff. I have a business partner who funded it.
Gotcha.
My brother-in-law is amazing. But that coding company has been working on it for over 3 years, bro.
Okay.
Which is funny because their original estimate to get the gig was 8 months.
Yeah, seems about right.
Yeah, and now over 3 years later, I'm like, fuck, Jesus Christ, man. But it's they're on the end run. Basically, we broke up payments. To get each payment, they have to like send a working model of the game.
Okay.
And then we see what they've done, and then they get the next payment, and then they, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So they're on the tail end. They're on the very, very tail end. And it's so cool, though, because the only thing about 7 months ago, we just put up a store page on Steam. And we have 1,100 wish lists on it, dude.
Well, what's the name of it? So that way we can
Crown of Thorns.
Okay.
You would have to have the parental filter off, though, because it's an adult VN. So, and it's basically a prequel to my award-winning feature film script, Blade and Blood.
Okay.
Which in itself is based on one of my short films called Blade and Blood. So I did a short film called Blade and Blood, and then people loved it so much, I wrote a feature film based on it. And then this video game is like a prequel to the film. And we're using that film as part of the marketing. So even though we haven't marketed, but on the page, if you go to the store page, you'll see that we talk about the film. But even when I'm talking to film, also the link, I'm sure you'll put it up.
Yep.
He'll put up a link where you can catch a bunch of my short films and stuff like that on my YouTube or whatever. But I've always wrote short films, and I even tell young filmmakers, when you write a short film, write it as if it's a part of something much larger. Like write it as if it's like a scene from a feature film. You know what I mean? So that if producers like your shit, when they look at it, they can see, oh, wow, I can see there's a much bigger world to this. You know what I mean? And so that's always been my thing that I've done.
What should be Amazon?
You just write it in like 3 different ways, bro.
So it's gonna come out because it's
from Dying Breed, and then
Dying Breed, YouTube, and my Facebook page. So that's why it might pop up several times. So
we had the same thing with that show we did, man. Every time my co-host wrote shit, because it was his job to watch the comments and stuff. So every time he commented, it'd be like the same comment, like over and over. And it's like, oh my god, because we were on YouTube and we were on Twitch and we were on like Facebook. So literally every one of them would like repeat the comment. It was like, oh my god, dude.
But yeah, I mean, I'm really thankful for you coming on. I don't know how much more time do you have left, because I know you got to go to work here in a little bit.
I got about a half hour. I got to jump in the shower, but otherwise I'm good.
All right, so yeah, we can talk for another 10, 15 minutes, and then just to make sure everyone. If anyone has any questions for JD, please.
I don't know if there's anyone still watching, man.
I got.
There's 4 people.
I got 7.
Because you're seeing your YouTube or whatever it is.
Yeah, so I got people on YouTube, no one on my personal page, and then 5.
Yeah, feel free to ask whatever question you want. I'm always up for answering. But yeah, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, so like, I mean, one, thank you for coming. I know it's been kind of wavy with the whole new year, and then last week with us trying to set up because work popped up. Being working for the military is not hours. Things
so
come up.
Are you still in the military, or are you now like just a kind of like a consultant, or?
No, I'm still in the military. I'm active duty. This beard is from a waiver. You know, my job essentially I'm a federal agent for the United States Air Force. So yeah, I mean, I do that for my job. I love it, and it gets me to travel. It's giving me good opportunities, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Very cool. But, well, I mean, I know that's how you know TJ, but I don't think he's active anymore.
No, so I met the way I met TJ was he was essentially my military training leader. So he was the guy who was in charge of 100 some people in the barracks. So that's he was one of the bosses there. So that's how I met him, and then we just kept in touch throughout the years. Every so often we bump into each other because the Air Force is a very small unit. I bumped into him in Qatar of all places. And then after that, I don't think we talked again probably till the whole thing with the Dying Breed series. But yeah, that's how that relationship kind of came in and out. But yeah, let me see. I'm also looking at because for some reason the comments for my personal page don't pop up, so I'm just making sure everything's good on this end. Yep, everything's.
I don't know if you have a question or someone else have a question. We've covered a lot of stuff though.
Yeah, I think we hit all. We actually have a draft, and we've kind of naturally just hit all the waypoints. Do you have any great resources for people like anywhere other than Royal Road? You know, that kind of start going to kind of see what the process is for book writing.
I don't know because I think TJ knows this and Ryan as well. Writing is such a personal experience. Everybody does it differently. You know what I mean? So I stop listening to people when people tell me this is the only way you do something. Because to me, everything, there's 1,000 ways to do it. You know what I mean? Like, depending on who you are as a person, what needs to get done, and how you best learn or do things. You know what I mean? Like, whatever works for you and is productive, then go. I mean, people can give you some, like, this is how I do it. And then, or this is how several people I know do it. But in the end, you have to find something that works for you, and that might be different than anyone else. You know what I mean? The only thing I say is if you want to be a writer, and we talked about it in the beginning, you have to commit to being a writer, and it's a job, and you have to do it every day. And like I said, I don't care if it's one sentence or 100 words or 2,000 words. It doesn't matter. But every day you need to go in and lay some meat on that shit. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna use that one. Lay some meat. I like that. But yeah, but that's pretty much it, guys. Again, I'm gonna give you about another 2 or 3 minutes, and that's pretty much it. But guys, if you guys have any questions, please you can hit up JD in any of those forums, and then you could also look them up on Facebook to ask him any questions and to find.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I'm not the best social media guy. Like, eventually, I'm gonna have to hire someone to fucking do that because I have Patreon, I have Discord group, I have all those things, but I'm barely on any of them because I already have my hands full with fucking trying to work a normal job and write and get shit done. So like I literally trying to keep up on a Patreon, on a Discord, on a like I literally this is why Geneva has a job.
Yeah.
Because trying to juggle all of those things is
And
a
she's good
lot
at it.
to expect out of one person, especially if you have to have a normal job that you work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But to find me, guys, All Knowing Q on YouTube, Twitter, the same thing. So All Knowing _ Q. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I think that's it. I don't do.
with me, just look for the Glasscock.
Sure.
Hunt down that Glasscock. Viva la Glasscock.
Never a dull moment with JD, guys. Never a dull moment. But yeah, with that, guys, we're gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just I've had, and everyone has a different writing style. Like, you know, I have to be careful with allowing too much of my poetic background to roll in, because I think some of the issues I'm having with the Warhounds and the Dream series is I think the writing might be a little dense for the lit RPG crowd. You know what I mean?
What do you mean by dense?
Dense, like using a lot of metaphorics and linguistics and all that kind of stuff. Now, I can write a lot of different styles because you learn that in film. When you're writing like 100 different characters, they all have to like have their own personality, speech, how they talk, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I've written a Western, I've written a sci-fi, I've written a post-apocalyptic. All those things change the dynamic. But I've learned a little bit more in the superhero one, where I'm still doing a lot of linguistic acrobatics, but it's more slang, hip, street, which I think people can encompass a little more. Where in the Warhounds, it was a little more esoteric and heavy and dense. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing what you're
a lot of mythology being used, a lot of just dense imagery, and I think some people don't want to dig through that density. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, Stephen Landry, I guess, read it and he loved the shit out of it. So we'll see.
I mean, hey, Steve is another person that's good when it comes to writing. So I mean,
yeah, that should probably be who your next guest is, man. You should have him and his girl.
Okay. I mean, I was thinking, I don't know if you met Jodan yet or talked to him.
I think I know who that is, but yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking of bringing him on, but yeah, I mean, Steven, actually, I haven't seen his comments.
Yeah, him and his girl. Because they co-write a lot of stuff.
I might hit him up to do that, but it's not a bad idea.
Especially if you include his girl, because he'd probably be more apt to want to do it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't limit myself to, you know, I brought in both.
Like in the Guildify, they did their AMA together. They did a few different things.
Yeah, I welcome it. Yeah, I got no problem with it. So,
but anyway, you guys, I got to get ready for like the real world and real job. But thank you, Q, for having me.
No, hey, thank you for coming. Hey, guys, again, JD's information is here on the and all the links. Please hit him up. Support his stuff on not Patreon, sorry, Railroad. And with that, we'll sign off and we'll do Ryan Maxwell's Awkward Wave, if you remember that.
I'll leave that to you, man.
All right. Well, later, guys. Have a good one and be
Peace,
safe.
Guys. See you.
Oh.